Hi, this is Nuru Karim. It's a pleasure to be here and to be associated with the AECWORLDEXPO. I'm going to actually take you through 3 projects, and it's a humble attempt at actually putting together a body of work and then critiquing it in a way. And I think, to quote John Rachman's declaration that art itself must be experimental, I think what we need to display united as a team of designers is an attitude of commitment and dedication towards design and building technologies and towards innovation. So hopefully this presentation will hinge upon some of our processes, some of our ideals, some of our ideologies, the way we work, how important the digital is in our construction of what design is, of what spaces, or what tactile experiences. The first project that we're going to look at is for the musician Shan and his wife Radhika and 2 lovely kids. This project is sited in suburban Bandra in Mumbai, and as part of our response to the brief and our response to the design strategy was twofold. The first bit was to actually break this matchbox-like scenario that you see in India, particularly in Mumbai, the developer model, these apartment blocks, housing blocks that are like matchboxes and stacked together. So that was part of one of our responses, to break the box in a way. And the other response was to connect and to kind of look at architecture as a translation of music. So these were 2 very important aspects. What we started actually looking at was sine waves, and these sine waves that produce musical tones. And basically sounds can be broken up into different sine waves, and basically a sine wave is made of amplitude and frequencies. And to run through a really quick story, Pythagoras was actually noticing a blacksmith striking his anvil against a ground, and he actually noticed there were tones that were set up. There were kind of rhythmic patterns of sound and silence, which could be connected in a way to voids and solids in design or in architecture. But I think he was also perhaps the first person to define consonant acoustic relationships based on proportional harmonic systems, or between strings of proportional lengths. So if you take a string and you actually pluck it, no matter what the material of the string is, it could be rope, it could be gut, it could be steel, it will start creating these wave-like patterns at precise intervals and proportional lengths. It could have a rhythm at half, 1/4, 1/8, so on and so forth. This next slide is basically a superimposition of 2 sine waves, and I think if you see between these 2 sine waves, it has the same amplitude, but one is exactly half the frequency of the other. So we started actually taking a bunch of these sine waves and putting it together. These were layered across striated bands, and we ran through a couple of iterations where we actually changed the amplitude and frequency to get different kind of wave patterns. Of course, these were profile extrusions, and it became a potential skin for the project. It became very important where to apply this. And we actually thought we'd craft some of this into a transitional element. This transitional element being a staircase. There's also an element of timing factored at an experiential level as well once you talk about transitional elements. And it also became the main activity core of the household and the main hub of the project. These are a couple of shots of the installation kind of stairway. A lot of critics have called that an installation staircase piece in some projects, and you can see it actually cascade through the central void. And we work with light also in a way that light is kind of actually embedded behind the skin, so you could actually get the glow through that. So that became an important feature as well. The couple of shots, you can see the styrated dynamic sine wave skin that actually moves through the void. But I think the diagram on the right also mentions our strategy in terms of breaking into the bulk of the matchbox-like structure, increasing porosity levels, or increasing transparency. We also kind of try to achieve a double height void penetration, and that's something what we do, and clients hate us for this. But we start coming in and we start moving walls and start knocking off slabs and ceilings, so we can actually inject a sense of transparency and porosity in the project. So that becomes an important tool for us as well. Some of these studies are taking forward into the private realm as well. So you have like this master bedroom surface, and it's a double curvature kind of skin that is kind of sliced together and stitched together, which forms the backdrop of the bed, as you can see in the slide. We also try to work with, when we're looking at residential projects, we try to look at these traditional elements and the way they're placed. For example, someone puts a bed against a wall and someone puts a wardrobe in a specific way. We try to take these elements and try to use it almost like pebble formations and try to move it across and see what is the composition that we can achieve. So in this case, we actually took the bed right into the center of the room, made it like an island kind of space, and then tucked away the wardrobe behind it. The structural skin that you see is something that anchors both the bed and the wardrobe as well. The kids' playscape, or rather play space, and the brief required 2 spaces. We got a very clear brief from the client, and they said, okay, kids, we need a space for them to sleep, and we need a space for them to play, because they're young, beautiful kids, boys actually. And what we did was we actually tried to embed or combine both of these elements into one object. So what you see here is something that the kids could actually slide onto. There are a couple of ladders. You can see the way they use it. They use it at very different speeds. The energy levels are fantastic. They could play, roll, watch, study, surf, so on and so forth. So that became an interesting feature. And the sine wave ceiling was also something that was kind of deployed in this project at the ceiling level. So this, you have like this whole kind of wave-like ceiling that runs through the kids' space, and under this wave-like ceiling there are a couple of very dynamic objects, soft forms, soft curves. We do a lot of CNC kind of crafting and CNC methods of fabricating furniture as well. So in a way, as the client said, this project is a base for sensations, and I think that's important. It's a communication system: work, learning, play, rest, dream and fulfill. And your architecture could perhaps be an inspiration for several factors, including enhanced quality of life in a way. Moving on to the second project, and if the first project was an humble attempt at actually putting together architecture or interior architecture and music, this one actually looks at geometry in nature. So what we're actually looking at is a honeycomb ladder structure, and a lot of people actually work with these systems. But we've set together a parametric associated model that we could actually tweak and modify and use it for different kind of different ways within the realm of interior space. We started just taking part of these ladder structures, and we started creating a bit of differentiation in the cell sizes, and also the kind of depths that we could change and tweak around. But we started applying it to like store frontage. For example, in the retail environment, what could this potential storefront be like? So that was one study. The storefront as an interface between the retail environment and the city. We also started looking at couple of different strategies. One was to actually take the ladder structure and wrap it in a tube-like formation. So you actually move in through the space, and it's very long and linear, almost like a tube-like structure, but the skin is this honeycomb lattice. And the other one was actually a system which was like an aggregate cloud formation of hexagonal cells. Within both these systems, we had like island counters, we had virtual counselors, we had retail display devices.